Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
This week, representatives from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California announced numerous charges against a 30-year-old Oxnard man after he was accused of illegally bringing more than 1,700 reptiles into the country over the past 6 years. According to reports, between January of 2016 and February of 2022, Jose Perez, who also goes by the name Julio Rodriguez, ran an illicit exotic animal business over social media. With the help of several accomplices, including his 25-year-old sister, he allegedly procured numerous different kinds of reptiles, which were smuggled into the U.S. mainly from Mexico and then sold to buyers Perez found online. The smuggled animals reportedly included Yucatan box turtles, Mexican box turtles, baby crocodiles, and Mexican beaded lizards. According to investigators, Perez was caught in February of this year when he attempted to cross into the United States at the San Ysidro port of entry at the U.S.-Mexico border. When a search of his persons was conducted, more than 60 reptiles were found hidden in his clothes, including dozens of lizards and 4 snakes. Perez apparently tried to claim that all of the animals were his pets. However, with no paperwork to back up his absurd story, he was arrested. A subsequent investigation reportedly led authorities to uncover the full scale of the 30-year-old's illegal operation. This week, Perez was charged with numerous different offenses related to the case, including 1 count of conspiracy, 9 counts of smuggling goods into the country, and 2 counts of wildlife trafficking. If convicted, Perez could reportedly be looking at a maximum of 5 years in prison for the conspiracy charge, 5 years in prison for each of the wildlife trafficking charges, and 20 years in prison for each of the smuggling counts. At the time of this recording, he remains in police custody.
Authorities in Lyon County, Nevada say that they have made an arrest in connection with a missing 18-year-old girl, almost 2 weeks after she was allegedly kidnapped from a Walmart parking lot before work. According to reports, the incident began at around 5 a.m. on March 12th, when 18-year-old Naomi Arian was inside her car in the parking lot of Walmart in the city of Fernley. The teenager was apparently waiting for the early morning company shuttle that would take her to her job at a Panasonic facility that manufactured batteries. The shuttle normally arrives somewhere between 5:30 and 5:40 a.m. However, that morning, Naomi never made it to work, and she hasn't been seen since. When investigators reviewed security camera footage from the Walmart, they discovered that as the 18-year-old was sitting in her car on the morning of her disappearance, she was approached by a strange man who was captured walking through the parking lot. The man allegedly entered the parking lot from a nearby homeless encampment, walked in front of several vehicles, then got into the driver's side of Naomi's car while she was still inside. After that, the vehicle drove off. According to reports, police found Naomi's abandoned car 2 days after she went missing in an industrial park near the Walmart where she was last seen. Evidence found inside allegedly suggested that her disappearance was criminal in nature. However, detectives have declined to elaborate on the details of what they found at this time. Further reports state that Naomi has not been active on social media since she went missing, and that there has been no activity in her bank accounts. On March 25th, police announced that they had arrested a 41-year-old man named Troy Driver in connection with the case. Driver was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping. However, little else has been released about what led police to believe he was involved in the case. On the same day as Driver's arrest, investigators also recovered a pickup truck that they said they believed could be connected to the kidnapping. Despite Driver's arrest, at the time of this recording it appears that Naomi's whereabouts remain unknown. Police say that a search for the teenager will continue, and that anyone with information about her case should contact them immediately.
Authorities in Houston, Texas say that 1 man is dead this week and another is injured after a father and son were the victims of a violent robbery at a local car wash. According to reports, the incident took place just after 9:30 p.m. on March 25th, when the 2 victims were washing their pickup truck at the car wash, which is located near the intersection of South Derry Ashford Road and Richmond Avenue. As they were standing inside one of the vehicle bays, they were ambushed by 2 armed men wearing ski masks who proceeded to rob the father and son. At some point during the robbery, one of the suspects began to pistol whip the son, causing him to try and run away. He was shot in the leg while escaping, but managed to make it to safety and call police. However, his father wasn't so lucky. As soon as he got away, the second suspect turned and shot his father before both of them fled the scene. By the time police arrived, the father was dead. The son was taken to the hospital for his injuries. Neither of the victims' names or ages have been released at the time of this recording. Police say that they have now spoken to at least one witness and are also reviewing surveillance footage taken from the nearby area. They're also asking anyone with information about the terrifying case to contact Houston Police or Crime Stoppers.
While no one was technically arrested or charged in connection with this next story, we decided to include it on this week's list since we knew that most of you would get a kick out of it. And, as you'll see, because some people apparently still require clarification about when it's acceptable to call 911. Authorities in the city of Euclid, Ohio, allegedly had to admonish a 62-year-old woman this week after she apparently called 911 to report that she had been shorted on an order of chicken tenders at a local KFC. According to reports, the incident began on the evening of March 22nd, when 62-year-old Lisa Castro dialed 911 and asked for an officer to be dispatched to her location. She claimed that she had just been through the drive-thru of a KFC restaurant and that she'd only been given 4 out of the 8 chicken tenders she had ordered. She further stated that when she had spoken to the manager of the restaurant, they had refused to give her the chicken that was supposedly missing from her order. Castro told emergency dispatchers that she would be waiting in the parking lot of the KFC in a Dodge SUV until police arrived. Though an officer was sent to Castro's location, much to her chagrin, it was not to force the manager of the KFC to hand over her allegedly missing tenders. Instead, the officer explained that their duties to protect and serve the community did not extend to settling fast food drive-thru disputes, and that the situation was not a police matter. No charges were filed in connection with the incident, though police apparently released a statement afterwards reminding people that the 911 system is for emergencies only.
Authorities in Colorado Springs, Colorado say that they're investigating a deadly shooting this week after 2 people were killed and at least 2 others were wounded in the parking lot of a local mall. According to reports, police were alerted to the incident at around 10:40 p.m. on March 25th after shots were fired in the parking lot of the Citadel Mall between the Dillards and Burlington Coat Factory stores there. At least 4 people were rushed to the hospital following the shooting, some of whom were apparently driven there in private vehicles. Sadly, 2 of the victims could not be saved and died as a result of their injuries. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, few other details are known about the case. Police have not released the names of any of the victims, and reports allege that there might actually have been more people wounded. It's also unclear if authorities have taken any suspects into custody. The only other major piece of information we could find comes from local news sites, which allege that police have identified a second crime scene related to the shooting. The area is reportedly located about 2 miles from the mall, near the intersection of Platt Avenue and Prairie Road. The situation is still under investigation.
Pennsylvania state troopers are mourning the loss of 2 of their own this week after they were allegedly hit by a drunk driver while trying to assist a pedestrian. According to reports, the incident began at around 1 a.m. on March 21st, when state troopers 29-year-old Brandon Siska and 33-year-old Martin Mack III received a call about a man walking in the southbound lanes of Interstate 95. When they arrived at the scene, they allegedly found 28-year-old Reyes Rivera Oliveras as described, allegedly walking on the highway near the Broad Street exit. After pulling over, Siska and Mack both got out of their SUV patrol vehicle and made their way over to Oliveras, who they began to escort back to their vehicle. However, as they returned to the SUV, they were allegedly struck out of nowhere by a vehicle being driven at a high rate of speed. After striking the 3 men, the vehicle hit one of the highway's barriers and continued moving, before pulling off to the side of the road a short distance away. By the time additional police arrived at the scene, a number of passing motorists had stopped and were trying to revive the 2 officers in Oliveras. However, sadly, it was no use. All 3 men were pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the vehicle that struck the men, identified as 21-year-old Jayana Tanae Webb, was also arrested at the scene. Not only do investigators now allege that Webb was drunk at the time of the incident, they say that she had been pulled over by the very same officer she killed just minutes before the collision. According to reports, Webb was pulled over by Siska and Mack for speeding, but the officers were forced to abandon the roadside stop early because the call involving Oliveras was more of a priority. After Webb's information was collected, she was apparently let off with a warning. only to allegedly go right back to speeding. While all of this is unbelievable enough on its own, perhaps the most galling piece of information about the case came when a search of Webb's social media activity was conducted. It turns out that just a few weeks ago, the 21-year-old allegedly bragged about driving under the influence, tweeting out, quote, "If you ask me, I'm the best drunk driver ever." At the time of this recording, Webb is now facing 18 different criminal charges in connection with the tragic incident, including 3 counts of third-degree murder, 3 counts of homicide by vehicle while driving under the influence, and 2 counts of second-degree manslaughter of a law enforcement officer.
Authorities in New Orleans, Louisiana say that they're investigating an apparent case of street justice this week after the father of a murder victim allegedly gunned down the suspect in cold blood while he was on his way to a court hearing. According to reports, the whole incident began on March 28, 2021, when 18-year-old high school senior Caleb Johnson and his 25-year-old stepsister Breonna Brown were shot and killed at an apartment complex in the city's Algiers neighborhood. The crime was allegedly the result of a gun sale gone wrong and also injured a third person who survived. Following an investigation, a 21-year-old man named Hollis Carter was arrested for the crime. After being taken into custody, he reportedly offered a full confession to police. However, he eventually rescinded his confession, allegedly telling his lawyer that he only gave it because he was afraid of the real killer. He was freed from jail on a $375,000 bond and was set to stand trial on 2 counts of second-degree murder and 1 count of attempted second-degree murder. This week, on the morning of March 23rd, Carter and his mother were on their way to the Orleans Parish District Court for a hearing related to the case when they stopped at a traffic light along the Chef Mentour Highway. As they waited for the light to change, a black pickup truck pulled up alongside them. The occupant proceeded to fire at least 8 shots into their vehicle before speeding off. Carter was pronounced dead at the scene, while his mother was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. 2 days after the shooting took place, authorities announced that they had arrested a suspect in connection with the case, 46-year-old Bokiel Johnson. Johnson has been identified as the father of Caleb Johnson, one of Carter's alleged victims. At the time of this recording, Johnson is now facing charges of second-degree murder and attempted second-degree murder. The situation is still under investigation.
For our last segment on this week's list, we've actually got something a little bit out of the ordinary. A feel-good true crime story that comes to us courtesy of 2 of our viewers. It all started on March 21st when Amir Cyrus Ahanchian, his partner Gia, and their new puppy, Truffles Von Dutch, were on a trip to Las Vegas from California. As they were sitting in the parking lot of a Target store near the intersection of South Rainbow Boulevard and Spring Mountain Road, the unthinkable happened. An unknown woman came up to them and reached through one of the open windows of their vehicle. The woman managed to catch them off guard, snatching Dutch right off of Gia's lap. At the same time, the woman allegedly pulled a gun on Cyrus and threatened him, asking him, quote, "Do you want to get shot?" Disregarding his own safety, Cyrus tried to chase after the woman. However, she quickly made her way back to her own vehicle and managed to escape with Dutch. Understandably, Cyrus and Gia were heartbroken over the situation. They had only gotten the puppy, who was an English bulldog, a few weeks before, and were training him to be a service animal for Cyrus. Determined to find Dutch, the couple went to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police to report the incident. They also offered a $1,000 reward for any information leading to his safe return and set up a GoFundMe page for the puppy, saying that they would match donation funds to increase the size of the reward. 3 days after the harrowing ordeal began, Cyrus and Gia were contacted by the Las Vegas police, who said that they had good news. They had found Dutch. According to Cyrus, it was a couple of 1-second video clips that Gia recorded that helped police crack the case. At the time the suspects were driving away, she had managed to get a tiny bit of footage that showed a vehicle impound number. The vehicle was tracked down, and the suspects were found sleeping in their car, still in possession of the stolen puppy. However, at the time of this recording, police have not released any information about the suspects or what charges they will now be facing. Dutch was reunited with Cyrus and Gia on the morning of March 24th at a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police precinct. Coincidentally, it was 1 day after National Puppy Day. When Cyrus reached out to us this week, we asked him if there was anything that he and Gia wanted to say about their ordeal. Cyrus said, quote, "Dog snatching is becoming a very common crime, mainly driven by the black market demand for bulldogs. All animal lovers should be aware and vigilant. Thank you, Las Vegas Metro Police. I am very grateful to have him safely home, and I really just want to thank anyone who will listen. Gia said, quote, I was lucky to catch that 1 in a million half-second shot of the dog snatchers, and the Las Vegas police knew exactly what to do with it. They promised me Truffle Von Dutch's safe return in the first 48 hours, and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police hit the jackpot. Before we wrap this segment up, we'd just like to thank Cyrus and Gia for reaching out to us with their story. It was great to chat with them, and they are both super interesting people. Cyrus is actually a filmmaker, writer, and producer, and Gia is a musician. We'll leave a link to some of their work for anyone interested. As for Truffles Von Dutch, if the footage that Cyrus sent us is any indication, it looks like he is happy, healthy, and overjoyed to be home. Apparently, an Instagram account has been set up for him, so if you're interested, you can continue to follow his adventures there. We'll also include a link to that in the description below. That's it for this edition of Crimes of the Week. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.